Amelia.
Hey, Janine.
I'm gonna check out a movie. Wanna come?
Sure.
Welcome to this episode of Check Out Cinema, a podcast where we check out movies from the local library and review them. Yay!
Yay, library!
Yay, libraries! That is a sentiment we should all appreciate, enjoy, support. If you're listening to this podcast and you're not a fan of libraries...
Well, you will be by the end of this.
Yes, you will be, because where else can you check out a fantastic children's movie like...
Cats don't dance.
Woohoo! They don't dance.
My cat, are you sure? If I play the right music, she dances.
Your cat.
And I have the right string. She dances.
But she is named Barbie, so...
She's a Barbie girl.
So we are discussing Cats Don't Dance, a 1997 family-friendly musical, animated, our first cartoon of the series, which I'm excited about because I love cartoons.
I love cartoons too. I think we're children at heart.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can do so much with that visual medium that literally is physically not possible with real human actors or cat actors.
It really lends itself to the story. The possibilities are endless.
Cats Don't Dance unfortunately did not have the sort of reception that was expected by the people who worked on the film. They really thought that this film was going to be a new standout hit. They thought it would be the next Toy Story.
Bigger than Toy Story.
Bigger than Toy Story, with music written by Randy Newman and Gene Kelly himself doing the choreography for the music within the film, which was then animated. And he was very excited to see the way that computer animation had progressed and how they could take his ideas and put them in cartoons.
So I guess cats do dance, if the cat is Gene Kelly.
I like that. He is a cool cat.
He is a cool cat. Rest in peace, Gene Kelly.
That does have to be pretty wild, honestly, for a man of his age in those years, 1990s. He's really seen animation go from,
Anchors Away, when he danced alongside Jerry the Mouse. I mean, that was that was a combination live action and cartoons. And then to see something fully digital animation, Danny the cat doing his dance numbers from, say, something like Singing in the Rain. I mean, that's got to be, thrilling, but also mind-boggling. How do you wrap your mind around that?
Yeah, I mean, it translates very well. You can see the fluid motion. One thing that really impressed me in the whole movie was just how everybody moved with such emotion. Like, every part of them moved. And it's something that you miss with new animation, especially in 3D animation. Not in all of the movies, but in, shows. There's a lot of stiffness that's in 3D animation just because oftentimes it's about the crunch. It's about the cost. It's not about the final product. It's about how can we do this for the cheapest, which means we sacrifice things like emotions. And so it's really nice to see this kind of peak years of 2D animation, of this push to really make an expressive, beautiful, fun, family-friendly film. This is one of my favorites and one of yours too, right?
Yeah, this was one of mine. So when we did Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, our last episode, you had said that was very much a childhood favorite of yours and a very important film, very formative. And so I was sort of racking my brain, what was a formative film from my childhood? And of course, I think in every single episode we've mentioned it, it's been Singing in the Rain. And then here's Cats Don't Dance, which is Singing in the Rain for kids, the cartoon version. And I just remember this being so important to me as a very big and loud, dramatic child. This just ticked all of my boxes. Revisiting it as an adult, this film, it holds up, and I realized, while I didn't remember everything from it, there were so many little bits and pieces that stuck out in my mind, and parts of it that I have quoted my entire life, and I could never really place, where did that come from? It just is a part of my subconscious.
Like what?
Meow, see? Meow. When Danny does his, I guess that's his James Cagney, or is that he does this James Cagney impression when he's riffing on, a new way of delivering the phrase meow as a cat. The meow, see? I say that to my cat. I say that, regularly.
I'm sure no one would mind if I jazz this up a bit.
All right, learn it the hard way.
Meow. Meow. Jake Nibbin, meow. Meow, see? Yeah, that's it. Meow, meow.
Real quick, I'd want to take a second to, share the plot with folks, because when I mentioned this movie to a few people, they're like, oh, that sounds nice. What's that?
It's another Hollywood film. It's another movie about the movies.
It's meant to be 1939, although it's kind of wonky. I think it's supposed to be 1939 because there's all the references to Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz being the two biggest films happening in Hollywood at the time.
Stacked year.
Hollywood was busy cranking out humongous blockbusters. It's the classic, go to Hollywood, make your dreams come true, the tale that we've been told before time and time again, that we've covered on our podcast before with Day of the Locust. The promise of your name in, the marquee lights is just too appealing. And then to tap into that, or to sort of reimagine that story using animals as the masses that are flocking to the, dream factory that is Hollywood.
Dig that face, they ain't seen nothing like it any place. It's right above the movie screen, if you know what I mean. Look at me, I'm gonna be the cat to see. I'm going down in history, just watch me.
These animals, namely Danny, the cat from Kokomo, Indiana.
Way down in Kokomo. R.I.P. Brian Wilson.
Oh, yeah. And she says, Nebraska.
Yeah.
And it says, Indiana. Whatever. From his hometown, he takes the bus, crosses the country to achieve his dream. And there he meets those that have also tried to achieve their dream and have just become complacent in their lives and accept whatever they can get, that they might never have their dream.
Here, Farley Wink gets good parts for animals.
If you call hanging from a hook a good part.
Well, at least it's a part, huh?
Oh, there's no use trying, Miss Tilly. My fortune cookie last night said, "Give it up, you loser."
They've kind of resigned themselves to bit parts, showing up at an agent store, and the agent immediately brushes off any ideas of big dreams, but I can get you something. I can get you work.
Yeah, absolutely. That typecasting. We need a cat, or the human equivalent of that at the time would be, hey, we need
An entertainer.
An entertainer. Can you play the piano? Sure. Can you dance? Absolutely. Can you stand in the background and not move? Yeah, for the most part.
Right. It seems like, although this is a children's movie, so the messaging is not too heavy in terms of trying to give you who this is actually based on. It's a pretty clear parallel for the stifled careers of really talented people who were not white.
Yeah.
So specifically black entertainers.
The Mexican-American, Hispanic actors, the Asian Americans, so your Anna May Wongs, and then, someone like Rita Hayworth, who the studio completely, they gave her this entire plastic surgery makeover. Mm-hmm. They fixed her widow's peak. They, bleached her hair, dyed it red, turned her into the Rita Hayworth that we know today.
Entertainers with heritage that was not on the big screen or not in the roles that they deserved.
That's all kind of a lot for children to try and process, so then making it very clearly it's humans and then there's animals.
Right.
And animals play animals in movies.
Yes.
They cannot be fully formed, fully realized characters who can convey things like romance or a swashbuckling pirate. They can't play piano, and cats don't dance.
Yep, and they can't upstage beloved child actor Darla Dimple.
Flanagan. The title of this movie is The Larkangel. Isn't it?
Yes.
Who here's an angel? Can you tell me who here's an angel?
Why, you are, Darla, sweetheart, celebrity, darling.
Angel? That's right. I am an angel. I am an adorable little angel.
She is she's so frightening. That constant perky smile, her cherubic cheeks and perfect little spiral curls. Mm-hmm. She is formidable and frightening.
Yes.
And spiteful and hateful and evil. But she loves children and she loves animals.
And what a set of pipes on...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so she is voiced by Ashley Peldon. And is that also the singing voice?
No, I think she had a separate singing voice. This is a musical, have we mentioned? It is a musical. And a very catchy musical. We had talked earlier, Janine, you made a really good point that the two big musical numbers that really resonated with us as children were Darla's Big and Loud, and then the finale, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us. Big and Loud being Darla's helpful advice, just a little tip for Danny.
And it has this great two-part setup where it's like the initial advice to Danny to be big and loud. And then once Danny leaves her house, gets out of there, then she turns it around to say her evil plan and how you gotta be evil, you gotta be big, you gotta be loud.
They like it big, they like it loud, maybe a little bit jazzy sometimes. Mr. Pussycat, listen to me. You don't have to be good, but you had better be.
Get hot, Mr. Bull.
Big and loud. Big and loud. Gonna make your mama proud. Make it big.
It's such a staccato. It's this quick tap dance two-step through Danny's first few days in Hollywood. Monday, get to town. Tuesday, get an agent. Wednesday, get discovered. Thursday, big part. Friday,
Ruin it all.
Ruin it all.
So essentially, Danny comes into this whole resigned workforce of these different animals. There's the absolutely charming Sawyer, who's this white cat. She's the secretary. Not an actress, but gets talked into it because she's getting triple payment. And then there's also this whole set of all these different animals. My favorite was always the hippo. I loved Tilly Hippo. She's this little optimistic, cute, happy-go-lucky. She wants Sawyer to end up with Danny, which, of course, they do. There's also a turtle, a mammoth, a goat, a fish. Like, the fish is like an old Hollywood type.
She seems very, darling, come into my boudoir, darling. Almost like Marlena.
Yeah.
Marlena Dietrich. They're all stand-ins of these iconic
Shorthand.
Yeah, character shorthand. As like the aging vamp, and then the crotchety old man. There's the turtle that's Don Knotts, that's just Don Knotts, but a turtle.
And, Hollywood loves a quippy, fast on her feet, hot secretary.
Yeah, it was very His Girl Friday between Danny and Sawyer. They're sparring partners. So this movie has every single element, like you were counting them. It's a musical comedy, it's a backstage musical, it's a screwball comedy, it's a, did we say?
It loves Hollywood.
It loves Hollywood. This is a perfect Hollywood send-up.
Lots of references, lots of animated actors and actresses. There's the Brown Derby, which is a restaurant that was very popular in the golden age of Hollywood, host to many stars. That appears at least 3 times in this film. There's also theaters.
Yeah, the Trocadero and the Delroy. And of course, Grauman's.
Yes.
The, Chinese theater. Big Hollywood landmarks, and of course the Hollywood sign. It's like a postcard from Hollywood. Dear Mom and Dad, just touched down in the land of dreams, ready to make my mark on the city. All my love, Danny. And how many of those go out a day?
Yeah.
I do feel like, I've always wanted to, one dream has always been, I'm looking at my Singing in the Rain poster on my wall, is to, find some way to get discovered, break into Hollywood, and leave your mark. But the one line in particular really stuck out to me this time when Danny says, I just want to do what I love, doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
And that just, hearing that, it kind of put like a lump in my throat, and I'm like, oh, I remember being, I don't even know how old, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, at any age that I would pick this up and watch this, the messaging is right there to find a place and a time where you get to do what you love. And, no one can take that from you. And your dreams are big enough and matter enough, even if they only matter to you, that it's so worth doing everything you can to make it happen.
And there's something very special about watching a movie that you saw a lot as a child, that you really enjoyed as a child, and it still holds up. Which we're like back to back on that now.
I know, we're really lucky. I think we just had good taste as children.
Obviously, perfect taste. And I think there's this really special phenomenon that happened in that window of physical media, when physical media was our go-to way of consuming films at home, be it on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, any of those things. A Laserdisc.
Miss Laserdisc over here.
Yeah, we had to be high class, high society, and kind of a little stupid to invest in something that ridiculous. I mean, who looked at this giant disc was like, yeah, this is going to be permanent. This is going to be the one that makes it. But anyway, the appeal of having a physical media is, of course, you can watch it at any time. And so there are films that I think are burned into the collective memory of these generations, because if you wanted to watch a movie, that was it. Like, you had a select few films that you could watch. Whereas now, when you have streaming, you can watch anything you want within reason, I mean, as long as it's available.
Yeah, as long as it's not behind a paywall, you gotta rent it. It's with this add-in, this, trial. That's such a good point. Yeah. Just at any point, you can reach for it, rewind it, and do it again.
But I think that's why they end up making such a big impact, because it was easy to just keep watching the same thing over and over again, to wear out those VHS tapes. And like you said, when I was watching this and I saw the big and loud number, I was like, I remember just being fascinated by this number as a kid and thinking like how incredibly evil, and how you really do have this sense of doom. Like, you worry about Danny, what's gonna happen to Danny.
They're gonna fall big. Shut, Max.
So Danny, he tries to break out into the scene. He ends up being cast in this Darla Dimple film that is like a Noah's Ark tale, musical, of course. She's this little chubby angel flying above all the little animals, who their only line is, the dog says woof, the cat goes meow, and Danny wants to stand out, so he goes meow meow meow.
This is back alley opera. Uproar.
Yes, and this irritates Darla, because Darla is the star.
Darla is the Starla.
Darla is the Starla.
I just really wanted to say that.
I like that. I like that. I think that's good. And that's the whole movie, honestly, is Darla is the Starla. And, of course, Danny does not really land the sort of impact that he hopes. How does he get invited to Darla's house?
She overhears the cats and all the other animals. They have this sort of like meeting in the alley outside of the studio backlot. So in this sort of like in-between space, this sort of liminal space where like one side is all the, talent agencies, and then the other side of the alley is the studio that they all work for. But the in-between, that's like a really nice little metaphor that these animals exist in the in-between space. Like, they have representation, but they can't get in the door. They're locked out of heaven. They can't get in. And so they have this sort of jam session in the alley where Danny reminds them why they're in Hollywood. They have a song in their heart. They have talent up their sleeves. And they just haven't had the opportunity to let it loose. They've been confined to these restrictive bit parts. And it starts this musical number where Danny lets the light back into their life, brings the color back into their life.
You take this, and you take that. Come on over here, TW. Put on this hat. If we all work together, we can make our dreams come true. Let's show the world what we can do.
Everybody's got these sort of flat, dull colors to their life. And then sprinkles his magic on them, walks by them, gives them an instrument, taps his way around them. Suddenly the color comes back to them, and they remember who they are and why they're here. But Darla overhears that animal jam. Danny's got this bright idea to show Louis B. Mammoth.
Gee whiz, Mr. Mammoth, what's the secret of your success?
Simple. It's Dimple. delightful Darla dimple.
That is a reference to the head honcho at MGM Pictures, Louis B. Mayer. And I think that's a pretty accurate caricature of him, this small man with the round glasses and a cigar, you know, the typical picture in your mind of what a studio executive looks like. Danny has this plan to get Sawyer and every animal some sort of an interview or an audition with LB Mammoth himself, instead of just with, you know, casting directors or just, you know, production hands, anything like that. We're going to go right to the top. But Darla overhears that and she has other plans. That's when she invites Danny and, you know, shows some benevolence and apologizes for her giant, enormous, humongous, terrifying butler, Max. Apologizes for his abuse against Danny.
Because when Danny interrupted Darla, ended up making Darla from her rope just go flying into the air. She cried out for her bodyguard. Who is a reference to Sunset Boulevard.
Yes, very much. That is meant to be Max von Mayerling in Sunset Boulevard, played by Erich von Stroheim. Erich von Stroheim was a filmmaker from this pivotal time in early Hollywood. Although if you watch Sunset Boulevard, Erich von Stroheim makes himself out to be much bigger than he really was. He names himself with like the big three of filmmakers, and it's like, well, no, but I guess since you're alive right now and you're in this picture, you can say whatever you want.
Well, it's also funny, we were talking about like the shorthand, like how the different
the visual short, yes.
Right. Well, I mean, the shorthand for a director, you know, like this idea of a director wearing like the whole get-up with the horn, that kind of comes straight from Stroheim, doesn't it? Like that kind of idea of like a director had a uniform.
Of like the riding pants, the high boots, the hat. We have that director in The Director on Little Archangel. That's the movie that Darla is shooting.
Quiet on the set, please. Quiet. Miss Dimple is ready to begin. Lights. Camera.
Action.
Cue the elephant.
Well, Big and Loud, of course, has the heel turn. We already know Darla's
cannot be trusted.
Right, like we've kind of gotten those vibes already. Like there's one of my favorite Max moments is during this Animal Jam number in the alleyway. She is like immediately upset about it and she turns to look at Max because she wants to know what he's gonna do about it, and his little butt is...
He's just got a little hip shake, a little swing with it. He's like, that's kind of catchy. Like, you know, the beat is infectious, and he is, as frightening as he is only human.
But he is loyal to Darla, so he will do what Darla demands. And so Darla tells Danny, don't tell anybody this benevolence that I am doing for you, this charity work that I'm doing to make sure that you get this number, this opportunity. Of course, it all blows up in his face. It was always meant to. Darla does not want any competition, and one thing leads to a number... One thing leads to another.
Yeah, leads to another musical number.
Another musical number, yes.
Absolutely.
And the back lot where they're doing this large show to impress the director floods and bursts out of the doors. It's just like Busby Berkeley with his giant studio pool.
They do this all in this big soundstage, and like watching them flip the switches and this lever here and do that. It's cool to watch what is the behind the scenes of the movie working its magic and flooding the stage. That wouldn't happen in a Busby Berkeley, but it's cool to watch it be done in such a dramatic fashion.
Because it's an animated film, they don't have to be realistic, so they can do this shorthand, again, of like, how do we show that this is something that is meant to make the movie magic, but can also be manipulated. And so there's this little penguin named Pudge, I think.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to be in charge, even though he's like the most easily stoppable character. Like, of all the different animals, if you're gonna put something in charge of a thing that needs to be not messed with,
be monitored,
maybe not like a foot-tall penguin.
He's precious, and he's a
adorable.
tough guy, and he's
He
so cute, and I'd put him in charge of anything. He was my favorite. I remember being so protective of him. You know when, like, you're little and you see things that are too cute, like, too diminutive, too small, it, like, makes you emotional?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know anytime I would see Pudge, I'm like, I'm gonna cry.
You know,
That's my little friend.
There was somebody who was like the marketing director for this film, or like the character designer, who that's all they wanted. That reaction there.
It's like, what's gonna be so cute that it's gonna make this little girl in Memphis, Tennessee cry?
Exactly.
A tiny little penguin.
A tiny little penguin that gets, tied up and is not able to stop the flooding. And so it floods the whole backlot, the whole business, and of course, Louis B. Mammoth gets swept up in it and so angry, so devastated by his office being destroyed, all these things, that you are out of Hollywood. All of you.
You animals will never
Nibble kibble in this town again.
And then there's the one emotional song, which I thought was interesting because in our last episode, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, we mentioned that there's several pretty slow songs that are just utterly forgettable.
As a child.
Yeah. And this song, however, Tell Me Lies, apparently the first recorded for the film, they started here and they really thought they had something special. And it is a special musical number. It is genuinely very good. It is not as good as Big and Loud, but...
It's no Big and Loud, but
yeah.
It's no Nothing's Gonna Stop Us.
Yeah, and it's Sawyer, the cat secretary.
Where's Sawyer? Ah, Sawyer, sweetie, baby.
Whatever it is, the answer is no.
I'm in a bit of a jam.
Too bad.
Can't find a female cat for the art picture.
Tough tabby.
So guess who gets to fill in?
You?
Nah, I only fill in for those dashing Clark Gable types.
Frankly, Clark, I don't give a...
Sawyer.
I'm a secretary, not an actress.
Come on, I'll give you Sundays
I
off.
never work Sundays.
Hey, double time.
Triple time.
Triple time.
Is there an echo in here?
You're pushing me?
No chow, no meow.
Okay, triple time. Here's your partner. He's new in town. Be nice.
Forget it.
A deal is a deal.
And it's sort of this rallying moment of she needs to go find Danny and stop him from leaving Hollywood, going back to Kokomo.
Because she believes in him and she realizes that his truth is her truth, is their truth. It's a lie, but it's something to believe in.
Right.
And it's something to live for.
Right.
And it's the romantic core of the movie. Like you said, of course, the two cats are together. I mean, that's foreshadowed from the very beginning. They're the only two cats in the movie. They're the only two cats on the ark. And then as Sawyer says, so much for preserving the species. Of course, they have to fall in love with each other. But this is the moment where she realizes that he has the optimism that she came to Hollywood with, and that they share in that same dream together. And it's beautiful. That's Natalie Cole. That's Nat King Cole's daughter.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's that through line of old Hollywood to now that is the entire thesis of this movie. Yeah, she's got this gorgeous voice. I mean, it's so soft and real romantic and jazzy, just so smooth and so beautiful, and it really does fit this pretty kitty.
Yeah.
I mean, Sawyer is gorgeous. I love her character design, this white cat with a big fluffy white tail. She's beautiful.
Yeah, all of the characters are designed very well. I mean, and there's a good contrast between Danny, this like rough orange cat, kind of like about
Country
the cats.
bumpkin.
Yeah, all orange cats have like one brain cell. It's like, well, here's the original. Here's Danny with his one brain cell coming into town. Well, it's also, not only is it the romantic core, it's also touching on how Danny gave these other actors meaning, and they all kind of rallied together like, let's get Danny back into town off the bus. Well, Danny actually sees Pudge, I think, and he can't deal with the fact that even little tiny Pudge is giving up on his dream. He's like, this isn't fair. We're here to get the roles that we deserve. So they decide to try again, to put on a big show that nobody can ignore. And where do they do it? They're going to steal Darla's thunder. They are going to do it at her movie premiere. So they all set up to put on a show after the curtains close at the premiere. And of course, Max, I think he doesn't even see them. He hears like a penny drop or something.
It's the sound of Pudge's bow tie like snapping into place. He's like, and I look good. And then, thunk, and he like thumps his little bow tie just to give that little extra zhuzh. And it's the sound of the fabric that Max's little cauliflower ear picks up, yards away. over the sound of the film, and then whoosh, she's gone. There's something supernatural about Max. He's like a zombie or something.
Yeah.
Like, there's something otherworldly. He is not of...
Yeah.
He is not human.
I mean, he towers over every single other human, and he has like this design. I mean, kind of like a gorilla, like King Kong.
Yeah. They had that King Kong reference.
Yeah. So I mean, because he does climb up on top of the building. Because that's basically what happens. Is he chases after Danny, and they end up having this altercation on the roof. And Max thinks he straight up killed Danny by chasing him off the roof, but Danny landed on a giant balloon of Darla. And
monument to her own ego.
Right, exactly. And Max thinks he still has the upper hand, but the balloon gets poked and sends him flying away, just like Darla did on her little rope. And Danny gets to go back down into the theater and set things up for the film for their final little act, and Darla tries to sabotage them, but everything that she does to sabotage them makes their number even more fabulous.
Now I'm gonna tell you why. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us now. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us.
It's like, you know what? My haters can't even touch me.
My haters are my motivators. And the number is called Nothing's Gonna Stop Us, so quite literally. It's like a spell. It's, you know, it's protecting them. Nothing will stop them from singing their song and sharing their talent and their joy with the rest of the world. And everything that Darla does to ruin it only makes it that much better.
Yeah.
The pieces of this movie, I know I think a lot, I talk a lot and I think a lot about Singing in the Rain, but watching, there's that scene in Singing in the Rain where Don confesses his love to Kathy, and they're on the soundstage, and just by turning this light and, you know, having this wind machine, how it makes the perfect setting where he's able to deliver that line. And so again, the two numbers of the flooding of the backlot, and again watching Darla deconstruct the scene, but still creating something so breathtaking and so monumental for the space. It is really impressive.
The final reveal of Darla not being the beautiful little child star that everyone thinks that she is she basically gets caught on a hot mic.
Oh, like in Singing in the Rain, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Janine, you're brilliant. Yes, exactly. The hot mic of her real voice, or, you know, her true intentions. When I flooded the stage, she confesses to it all and is caught red-handed. That's such a good point.
And she just ends up becoming like a janitor after this is all over. And the animals are all the stars now. So we love a good comeuppance, you know, we love a good you get what you deserve type thing. The ones who were hard-working actors and actresses, they get rewarded, and the entitled little child star doesn't get stomped to death like in Day of the Locust.
Oh, God, yeah. See, again, this is why this is Day of the Locust for kids.
Right.
Because nobody dies. Did you see that at the end in the credits, how it was no animals were harmed in the making of this? Although some were erased and redrawn. What would that be like if you were a cartoon and then you were erased and then redrawn again, but like in a new way? The existential crisis of it all. I existed and then I didn't, and now I do, but I'm different.
Did you ever watch Chalk Zone?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Chalk Zone, right? Once you get erased, you go into a different world of where things go when they're erased. So you're still around.
You're still around. Interesting. That's definitely something to think about.
I've got an answer for all your philosophical questions.
Yeah.
Write them in to Check Out Cinema. I will give you the answers to everything.
A little Ask Janine segment.
Meow.
Well, Cats Don't Dance, I mean, again, it's always a pleasure to watch a movie that holds up despite childhood nostalgia. But also it has kind of an interesting place in animation history, especially with the popularization of home media. Because you have a movie that probably wouldn't have had that impact had it not been available on VHS. Now, it didn't have the kind of numbers that something like one of my other favorites, Nemo and Slumberland. That one was a critical failure, a commercial failure, but ended up being one of the most popular VHS movies of all time, like for children. But this one didn't get those kind of numbers, but did have a wider audience reach because of the home media market. And they did a lot of crossovers. They did a promotion with Continental Airlines, actually, like where if you purchase it, you would get like Continental Airlines cash, or it was bundled with other movies. But the whole reason why it kind of had this fallout was because it had this unfortunate timing of being when Turner Broadcasting merged with Time Warner. And so nobody really remembered to promote it, or they didn't know who it fell under. And it just kind of fell through the cracks. And so it didn't get the welcome that they were expecting, which is sad because I think it probably could have had a larger impact.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like standing ovation after standing ovation after standing ovation in my grandmother's living room. I mean, this was everything. It was so important. You know, just something that you can, as a kid, something that you can sing and dance to, something with beautiful colors and characters, things to laugh at. This has such sharp and like witty dialogue that, you know, as a kid, you don't even really pick up on that. You pick up more on the visual gags, like big man squash tiny cat. I mean, I don't mean to sound like Tarzan or a caveman, but I mean, that's how simple, at least my mind, I don't think I'm alone in that, how most children's mind works. But then they sound, they're kind of like throwaway when Danny says, finally, I'm achieving my dream. And then his agent says, and just remember, 10% of those dreams are mine. And it's like, we talked about with Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, how there's like something for the kids and something for the adults, but the film doesn't pander to the children, and it also doesn't do anything with like a sly smile and a wink, like, hey parents, I know you're watching. It's just a very earnest Hollywood send up, sort of like a Hollywood primer for kids if you are wanting to raise like some incredible film buff, you know, and you want to start their film education early on,
or if you want to have them have a podcast,
or you want to have them have a perfect little podcast
about movies, about Hollywood movies about Hollywood, as we keep going back to. But there's a reason why they make movies about Hollywood. There's a reason why we watch movies about Hollywood. I think what's interesting also is I think about that scene in the alley, because it's got this kind of classic, again, this animated shorthand for the alley with like the laundry lines like going through with all the clothes hanging off. And it's like a scene you see over and over again, even though we both did not grow up in like big city settings. Like there were cities nearby, sure, but like we're not living in an alleyway looking up and seeing all that stuff. But you get that shorthand in movies that it feels like a home. It feels like something you can kind of relate to because it's something you see over and over again, which is why I think I've heard people say before, it's like we've all grown up in Hollywood. We've all grown up in New York because we've been shown that over and over again. It almost feels familiar to us. And so it's kind of a thing that introduces us to those concepts, to those references. And I think it is very funny that there's a lot of celebrity references. Well, you did say it's like, yeah, it's not going to like point out to the parents like this one's for you, but they're also not name dropping all the actors.
No, yeah, they do a very good job of that. You're just kind of like in the know, but I think that they did a really good job of picking like very iconic characters. They have Laurel and Hardy at the Brown Derby. They have Mae West. Mm-hmm. I thought it was really interesting that they didn't do a Charlie Chaplin. Maybe the Chaplin estate didn't sign off on it.
I was thinking that. Yeah, I was like, because they had at the very beginning, like when Danny comes in and sees the handprints, Gene Kelly is the first one, because of course Gene Kelly was doing the choreography. Yeah. But Buster Keaton's in the bottom left, and there's no Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, there was a Buster Keaton. I didn't even catch a Buster Keaton.
Yeah, there was a Buster Keaton.
Hey.
So, you know, there's a lot of references to the golden ages of Hollywood, and even before, honestly, the true golden age, which I think specifically mentions to the 40s, right? Yeah. Is the golden age. So this is set before the golden age.
We haven't even gotten there yet.
We haven't even gotten there. We don't even know.
The animals usher in the golden age of Hollywood.
They really do.
Darling! Get a picture, boys! These kids will be making history!
Let me ask you that. What did you think about the ending finale montage where they're still singing Nothing's Gonna Stop Us, and it's the movie posters of, you know, the main cast of animals acting in Batman and Robin. The first thing they do is Singing in the Rain, where it's Danny and Sawyer and Pudge. They're Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor, and Debbie Reynolds in Singing in the Rain. That's the first thing that they do. So they do Singing in the Rain. There's Twister. There's Casablanca. There's Batman and Robin. There's Free Tilly.
That's very funny because Tilly's the hippo, right?
Yeah, so
Yes.
Free Tilly. So they do all of this, and part of me wonders, I'm like, are those all specifically Warner? Like to Warner Media, as this is Time Warner, or this is, Warner Broadcasting Distribution, or are they specific to MGM? If this is, Mammoth is meant to be MGM. But what did you think about that? Did you because I mean, if this is supposed to be 1939, this movie came out in 1997, and they have these contemporary titles. I mean, Singing in the Rain and Casablanca obviously are not contemporary titles. Oh, okay. I think we have an answer.
Yeah, I think they are Warner Brothers movies, which I did not realize, and I'm very ashamed to admit this when you were asking me that question. What immediately came to mind was the most recent Space Jam movie. Which was awful, by the way. It was horrible, but I love, speaking of childhood nostalgia, I loved the old Space Jam. So I decided to watch it, I think during the lockdown or something like that. When you just watched anything because you're like, F it. Just, so it's like when you were just like, you know what? I've got nothing left. I've got nothing in me. Just sure, I'll watch whatever it is, whatever you've got. Like, actually, even just beyond the lockdown, it's just like, at that point, it's like, if you have a movie and you're talking about it, I guess I'll watch it. And so I watched the Space Jam movie. And the weirdest thing about the Space Jam movie is, because it's a Warner Brothers property, they had this kind of, well, it's very popular to have a multiverse now, like the Marvel multiverse.
That just like makes me want to puke.
Right.
It makes me want to puke. Did you not know this? In multiverses.
So in Space Jam, in the most recent Space Jam, at the game, she's plugging her ears, and I don't blame her.
Not.
So at the game, there are all these characters from Warner Brothers properties, including like the Clockwork Orange guys.
Oh,
yeah, that are in this children's movie. Like, I don't.
Okay.
But yeah, like they have like Casablanca's there. So when you were mentioning all like the parodies, I was like, was that in Space Jam?
Or was that
one in Space Jam? Because that's kind of ticking off whether or not it's a Warner Brothers property for me.
That's a good checklist. That's a good metric.
Oh, I should not have watched that movie. It was awful. But yeah, I think again, it's another good shorthand. It's another good way to just like, how do we end this movie? It's like we want to show them that they succeeded in Hollywood, and I like that they put
breaking down animal barriers and prejudices.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense they would do Batman and Robin because that's a popular movie with children, and it had just kind of come out. So, it just makes sense. And I think it's funny that, they also have to show that Darla did not get to continue being a star. Like,
no.
Like, she's not good enough.
She's been blacklisted.
She's been canceled.
This is the 1950s, and McCarthy got her. She's been blackballed, blacklisted.
Well, on that note, I think that, it's always good to watch a movie that you're pleasantly surprised by, that is easy to watch. Again, 75 minutes. That's crazy. No wonder it was always on repeat in my household. I mean, you just pop that right back in over and over again. There's, parents get to actually do some work while you're just sitting there, big and loud.
That's so good.
What do you have for, suggested reading, suggested watching?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for suggested watching would definitely be Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Of course.
Like, so, there's not a whole lot to research about this movie because it's not even so much about the movie. It's just about the feeling that the movie gives you, which is like sheer fun and joy. But looking at the research, apparently this was originally going to be some sort of like a CGI smash with Michael Jackson as the lead, and then Looney Tunes characters, so like Bugs and Daffy singing and dancing alongside him. And then he backed out of it. They ran out of money to like really follow that idea all the way through, so then they came up with this. Think what that could have been. That could have been I think it would have been a train wreck.
Yes, it would have been a train wreck, and it would have been one of those things like that nobody wants to bring up.
Yeah, did not.
Yeah.
This didn't age well, is what they
Yeah.
would have said, instead of like, wow, what an incredible movie that stands the test of time.
Yeah.
And so then I think that Who Framed Roger Rabbit would be great because it's all those different animation styles alongside humans.
Yeah.
In a similar fashion. Reading, I guess, hey, Day of the Locust, and hey, you should also watch Singing in the Rain along with this.
I mean, it actually is very much inspired by Singing in the Rain. Of course, with Gene Kelly in it, how could it not be? But the idea that there's all these productions that are referenced in there, like Casablanca, The Music Man, East of Eden, in those productions, they would feed the feral cats on the back lot. And that's where, like, the kind of seed for this movie came from, what it germinated from, was this idea of, like, cats that live in Hollywood that are fed by the actors, what do they do? And so then instead of just going like, here are these cats on the edge of it all, they're like, what if the cats are the actors, but they want more serious roles? So it was all born out of that. And then they're like, hey, why don't we have dance numbers? That'll be fun. Everyone loves dance numbers. Everyone's singing in the rain, and they do, because why wouldn't they?
Why wouldn't they?
So, you know, it's really got a lot of those references. You can watch any of those films we've referenced so far, or
Anything with the big actors that it references. So in
Yeah.
Laurel and Hardy, in Mae West, they've got Cary Grant and Clark Gable. Any of those.
And it was directed by Mark Dindal, who later worked on The Emperor's New Groove. So if you want another fun animated film,
Fantastic.
great little one that he did. This was his directorial debut. Cats Don't Dance. So, you know, that's really exciting. And also, we didn't really mention about the other voice actors, but who plays Danny?
Scott Bakula.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. I mean, what thing that I really liked about this film, and just kind of looking back on it, is like we've gotten to this point with animated movies now that it has to have big name actors and actresses for every role. And this is one of those ones that, like, we're in that era where you could just cast really talented people. Maybe I'm wrong, but I felt like the names were not so like, oh, you know, or it's like when you listen to, I'm trying to think of...
Chris Pratt is in everything if it's animated. Right. You know, he's in it all.
Seth Rogen.
He's in it all. Jack Black, he's in it all.
Mila Kunis.
Yeah. If it's something animated, you have this, like, stable of actors that you're allowed to pull from. And then if there's singing involved, then it must be a singer instead of like allowing for an actor or even just like specifically a voice actor, but allowing an actor to like inhabit a character, inhabit a role, and do something with their voice, and then also allowing them to carry that work that they did into the character's speaking voice into the singing voice. Yeah. I was telling you how I was like looking around for information on who provided Danny's singing voice, and it's Scott Bakula. He's singing as Danny. I didn't know that he had a Broadway career before this, but apparently he did. So it's like, you know, when you think, quit reaching for Chris Pratt and Jack Black and pull someone off Broadway. Or just pull some actor that has like a distinct voice and let them loose.
Yeah, I think that... Yeah, Hollywood, why aren't you taking our suggestions? Why aren't you looking at us? Why aren't you checking us out? We know everything. We know we can fix it all. We've done our research. We've seen Day of the Locust. That's all you need.
That's all you need. We know everything about Hollywood. We know more about Hollywood than you Hollywood executives.
Well, this has been another fun episode of Check Out Cinema. You can find us on Instagram at checkout_cinema. We are hosted through Spotify. And you can also check us out on our personal Letterboxd. Mine is Honeyed Life.
Mine is Amelia Grindhouse, and I am positive this time that is my Letterboxd.
All right, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. Oh, not that much. Okay. Okay, so we look like we have a good volume if we talk right about this level. Does this sound good to you?
This sounds good to me. I can do that. Do I need to be a little bit louder? I think I'm...
You might need to be a little bit
probably
louder.
Closer.
Okay.
Louder and closer. I'm going to be leaning on you.
That's okay. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend.
Hey, girl.
I'll help you check out a movie from the
library.